revenue high enough to be able to do so. And typically solopreneurs just do not know the proper techniques to scale. And so I've created something called Conversion Accelerator that, if you click the link below, walks you through revenue high enough to be able to do so. And typically solopreneurs just do not know the proper techniques to scale. And so I've created something called Conversion Accelerator that, if you click the link below, walks you through
such special needs. I wondered what was wrong with me. Comes off all so
Pussies.
revenue high enough to be able to do so. And typically solopreneurs just do not know the proper techniques to scale. And so I've created something called Conversion Accelerator that, if you click the link below, walks you through.
Titties is hard cause she spent the 5. My bitch titty cost me a dub. All my bitches got BBLs. All my bitches got pussies.
Revenue high enough to be able to do so. And typically solopreneurs just do not know the proper techniques to scale. And so I've created something called Conversion Accelerator that, if you click the link below, walks you through.
My bitch titty cost me a dub. All my bitches got BBLs. All my bitches got pussies.
Revenue high enough to be able to do so. And typically solopreneurs just do not know the proper techniques to scale. So I've created something called Conversion Accelerator that, if you click the link below, walks you through.
My young niggas do it and my brain is one of the drink. My bitch got BBLs. And I did what she got money. I know that she went to I can tell by the way she
Revenue high enough to be able to do so. And typically solopreneurs just do not know the proper techniques to scale. So I've created something called Conversion Accelerator that, if you click the link below, walks you through.
Hello, hello. Yeah. What's the problem now? What's the problem now?
Hello, hello.
There we go. Okay, my bad. It was a little lag on there. All right, we in the building. We in the building. Sorry about that, man. I'm trying to do some shit. Shit is not working out the way I'm planning it to work out. Shit is all fucked up out here. Shit is all fucked up out here. Problem now. Problem. But we here. We made it. A few setbacks, but we made it. What they do, YouTube. What they do, everybody out there in the highways and the byways, what they do. Welcome to Talk Your Shit Box. What they do. Welcome to Talk Your Shit Box. I'm your host, King David. What they do. We here to talk some good boxing shit, man. We here to talk some real big boy cash money boxing shit, my boy. You know what I mean? That's what we're here to do today. We're here to have some fun, but we're here to also get some education out there, man. A lot of misleading information out there. And we want to get some clarification in this motherfucker today, man. That's the main purpose of this whole episode. Some clarification, because we want to talk today. We want to talk today about the boxers that overvalue themselves. The boxers that feel that they worth, but really they worth, you know what I mean? That's what we're here to talk about. Man. Welcome to Talk Your Shit Boxing, man. That's just how we get down, man. Hold on, let me check the motherfucking comment section. Let's see if anybody said something. Nobody said nothing, so we're going to keep cooking. Let's get it. We're going to keep cooking. Welcome to Talk Your Shit Boxing. You know what I mean? But yes, sir, we about to go ahead and cook out here, man. But you know, before we start tearing it down, as always, we got to make sure we set the stage. We got to make sure we set the table in order to eat. You know what I mean? We got to get the plates. We got to get the forks lined up right. We got to make sure we got our salad fork, and we want to make sure we got our soup spoon, all that shit. We want to set the table up nice so we here. So we looking at each other eye to eye, so we on the same motherfucking page. You know what I mean? That's what we want to do. Shout out to the Heat, by the way, man. Got the Heat fitted on. Shout out to the Heat. What they do, man. Shout out to the Heat. Mind be born in ways, man. What they do. But yes, sir. Let's set that table. So again, the topic of the conversation today is fighters that overvalue themselves. You see the fucking thumbnail. You see the motherfucking thumbnail, so you know who we talking about. Fighters that overvalue themselves. Okay, so when you look at that thumbnail, I already know a few people on that list, people are gonna kind of look at like, oh, I don't think he overvalues himself. I don't think he is. I don't think he did. Best believe your boy King David is gonna explain why everybody is up on that thumbnail. You know what I mean? Best believe I'm gonna explain everybody that's on that thumbnail. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and get it popping, man. Let's get it popping. Let's set this table real quick. Let's make sure that we, you know what I'm saying, we locked in and we got everything straight so we can go ahead and eat. You know what I mean? All right, so here's the thing, man. When I mention overvalue themselves, you know what I'm saying? Well, let me start here. I always want to make sure I do this on a regular basis. I want to make sure I give props where props is due. The fighters that I'm talking about, I got the utmost respect for them as warriors, as fighters, as marketable businessmen, as everything. These dudes deserve respect, and I show them that level of respect. As far as the career decisions that they make, as warriors, as fighters, even as businessmen, I gotta look at it with that scrutiny eye. I gotta look at it with that eye of, what the fuck you doing? I have to. You know what I'm saying? First of all, they're public figures, so when you're a public figure, you're open to that kind of criticism, that kind of judgment. But at the same time, like, you know, especially as a boxing fan, when I can't talk about the fights that I want to talk about, well, I got to talk about why the fights that I want to talk about aren't happening. I got to talk about that because I can't talk about the fights that I want to see happen. I can't talk about them because they're not happening. So we're only left with the decision to talk about why these fights aren't happening, thus bring us to where we are now, where we have certain fighters that overvalue themselves, that feel that they're worth way more than what they actually are. So let's put things in perspective here, okay? Let's put things in perspective. Because here's the thing. I don't feel that I, you, or anyone else can put value on somebody else. I don't feel that we can do that. I don't feel that we can do that. What somebody feels like their worth is how they feel, is how they're supposed to feel. And that's something that they get that from. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Where it's open to interpretation. When your understanding of your value of your product, your frame, your boxer, your fighter, your public figure, when you believe that your brand is worth so much to the point where certain fights aren't getting made, that thus affects me as a boxing fan and thus gives me the right to be able to speak on your value as a fighter. It gives me that right because, again, these fights aren't happening. So now I have to place my value on, I have to place my interpretation of value on people, on fighters, on individuals, that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's really where we at with it right now. That's really where we at with it right now. We got fighters that believe that their value is so high. It's almost like they believe that it's a privilege to fight them. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they believe that it's a privilege to fight them. When in all actuality, it really isn't. It really isn't. You see, here's the thing. When Floyd Mayweather fought people, they knew that it was gonna be a win-win-win-win-win for him. Okay. They knew that it was gonna be a win-win-win-win-win for him, all the way across the fucking board. They knew that they were gonna get paid well. Okay. They knew they were gonna get paid well. One. They knew that they were gonna have an opportunity to fight an all-time great. Okay, a Hall of Famer, all-time great, pound for pound number one, whatever you want to call Mayweather, whatever you want to call Pacquiao, these dudes, but more so Mayweather rather than Pacquiao. Okay, they knew they were going to fight an all-time great. They knew that they were going to be center stage. They knew that they were going to be eyes were going to be on them. They were going to be in the fight. Okay. They knew that they were going to be in the fight. You know what I mean? They knew this. They knew it. They knew it. So, and not only that, but with those wins, they also had the opportunity to beat Floyd Mayweather. They had an opportunity to beat Floyd Mayweather, which would place them at the very top of the totem pole. Another win. And to add a bonus to that, okay, they knew that later on in Floyd Mayweather's career, he wasn't really knocking people out. He wasn't really hurting people. He wasn't really stopping people like that. Okay? So they knew 9 times out of 10, if they were going to lose, it was going to be on the cards. Okay? It was going to be a unanimous decision on the cards. So they really didn't have to worry too much about getting knocked out. Really. You know what I'm saying? They really didn't have to worry too much about getting knocked out. But oh wait, there's more. Because with fighting Floyd Mayweather, when you take a loss to Floyd Mayweather, everybody loses to Mayweather. Everybody loses to Mayweather. You see that? You see how I did that? Everybody loses to Mayweather. So it's not a big deal that I lose to Mayweather. And guess what? The numbers for those fighters always show that, because not only did they retain their fan base, but their fan base actually grew as a result of a Mayweather fight. It actually grew as a result of a Mayweather fight. Case in point, win, 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 win. Whether I win or lose, I win, 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 win. And if I win, I win, 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 some more. Some more. So fighting Floyd Mayweather for anyone, especially later on in his career, was a privilege. It was a privilege. It was a lottery ticket. It was a win-win situation. Okay, that's what it was. A win-win situation. Okay? But here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. We're in a generation now where everyone believes that they have the same value as Floyd Mayweather when they don't. And it's not even close. It's not even close. It's not even close. But hold on, let's take a quick break. I'm gonna check the comment section. Let me see if anybody talking shit. Let me see if anybody talking shit. Let's just see. Let's just see. Let's just see. I want GGG versus Spence now. That's a good fight. I don't know about that, my boy. I don't know about that. I can't read your name, but I don't know about that. GGG versus Spence. GGG stop Spence. GGG stop Spence. But I do feel like that would be a better fight than if Spence fought Canelo. I do feel like that would be a better fight. If Spence fought GGG, I feel like he would have a better chance against GGG than Canelo. For sure. But I feel like he would still get stopped. I feel like GGG would be too big. He would be too strong. Okay. Earl is not going, he's not the type of person to try to outbox anyone. So he's going to end up in situations where he's going to get hurt and possibly stopped. So I see that being a better fight than Canelo, but still not a good fight. Terry Shoup says Spence versus Jaron Ennis. Jaron Ennis, CS Terrence Crawford versus Terrence Crawford. Jaron Ennis is a really, really talented fighter. I like Jaron Ennis. I like Jaron Ennis. I think those are both really good fights. But with the current landscape of boxing right now, I don't see any of those fights happening anytime soon. Anytime soon, just to be real with you. I like them. I wish I could really talk about them, but I can't really talk about them because I know the chances of those fights happening are like 1 in a million right now. It would be like Floyd Mayweather coming back and fighting Errol Spence. It would be like some shit like that, or fighting Terrence Crawford. It's like 1 in a million. You know what I'm saying? I feel like these dudes, these welterweights now, Boots, Virgil Ortiz, these dudes are gonna have to wait a long time, a long time before they get any kind of shot at anything. At anything. You know what I'm saying? They probably gonna have to wait for these dudes to move up to 154, honestly. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, is how I'm feeling right now. But shout out to you, Terry Smoot Jr. Haney versus Linares is official. That's what's up. That's what's up. I'm glad Devin Haney secured a fight. That's a real, I like that. I like that Devin Haney secured a fight. You know what I'm saying? Him and Linares will make for a nice, interesting fight. So I'm happy about that, especially considering Devin Haney has spent probably the last year just looking to fight anybody, just anybody. You know what I'm saying? Bruce and Virgil, Boots, Virgil, and Rashidi have to wait. Yeah, man, they're gonna have to wait. They're gonna have to wait. Progress versus Ennis. Progress, they lost to Josh Taylor, man, and you know I don't. I see Boots stopping them. I see Boots stopping them all day. Progress loses to Ennis, and Ennis is he does. He loses to Ennis for sure. Too big. You right. Big. I think Boots can actually go up to he could probably go all the way up to 160. That's a big guy. Boots is a big dude. I see him going all the way up to 160. 160, maybe even 168, because he got the height for it, to be real with you. He got the height for it. Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia. That's a good fight. I would much rather Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia than Mikey Garcia and Pacquiao right now. For sure. Danny beats Mikey. I don't know about that. It'll be a good fight, though. Mikey and Danny, it'll be a real good fight, a real interesting fight. I feel like Mikey Garcia is a little too good of a boxer, though. Mikey Garcia has some real skills, though. Danny is an elite fighter. He only lost to title holders. Yeah, he's up there. Danny's up there. He's up there. I wouldn't call him elite at welterweight. I wouldn't quite call him elite at welterweight because he hasn't proven much at welterweight at this point, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? He lost to Spence, he lost to Sean, he lost to Key. You know, those were his big fights. You think he beats Mikey? I mean, I think it's a good fight, man. I'm gonna be real with you. I think it's a good fight, but I don't know about that happening. I don't know that he beats Mikey. Mikey got some skills. Don't underestimate Mikey. Mikey boxed circles around Adrian Broner. Mikey made Adrian Broner look pedestrian. You know what I'm saying? He made him look real pedestrian. Yeah, he held the WBC. He did. Yeah, 140. I think Danny was better at 140, though. If they fought at 140, that would be a real interesting fight. Danny and Mikey at 140. I think that would be a real interesting fight. He held the belt at 147, but you know, I think he came into a vacant belt, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't Danny pick up a vacant belt at 147? I'm pretty sure that's what happened because that was Mayweather's belt. Mayweather vacated that belt when he retired, and Danny picked it up. And then Keith beat Danny for that belt. I think Danny, I forgot who he fought. He fought in some sort of eliminator to get that belt. But, you know, it was a vacant belt. It's not like he had to work his way up for it. You know, he was the champ at 140 and then went up to 147, and he was right in that position to pick up that WBC belt, and that's exactly what he did. He capitalized on that shit. I ain't mad at him at all. Danny and Mikey at 140, that would be fire. I like that. I like a fight with them two at 140 better than 147 for sure, Terry. All day. I like a fight with them at 140 more than 147 for sure. Oh yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. I say that's a 50-50 fight. Danny was unified at 140. He got a vacant belt against Robert Guerrero. Yeah, that sounds about right. He picked up that belt versus Sean and Terrence versus Terrence. We about to talk about that, man. This live is about fighters that overvalue themselves. So we about to talk about Sean versus Terrence. Yes, that's a part of what we're talking about tonight, all day. You know what I'm saying? I got some words for Sean specifically. I like where he's at right now. You know, I like the nature of what's going on with that situation right now. But earlier on in the negotiation, I feel Sean was a little out of line. You know what I'm saying? I feel Sean was overvaluing himself a little bit too much. But we're gonna talk about it. All right, I'm gonna take a break from the comments, and we're gonna keep cooking. We're gonna get back on topic. So So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Just to recap what I was saying before. Here's the thing. There are fighters out there that place too much value. Okay, they place too much value on themselves. They place too much value on themselves, thus preventing certain fights from happening. Okay, and because of that, it leaves room for people like me to then quantify the value that these fighters are placing on themselves. That's preventing these fights from happening. It's my right as a boxing fan to be able to quantify value when I'm seeing fights not happen. Okay? It's my right. So I'm about to do it. I'm about to fucking do it. You know what I mean? I'm about to do it. So here we go. So before we jump right into it, before we start talking about fighters specifically and situations and shit like that, I want to briefly talk about some numbers, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there who every little chance they get, oh, I spit a little bit, goddamn. Every little chance they get, they want to bring up numbers. They want to talk about how this person does big numbers and this person does X amount of numbers and this person does X amount of numbers. When really, all of these dudes are doing very low numbers. All of these dudes are doing very, very low numbers, okay? So I got my little calculator here with me, which is really my fucking phone. I got my little calculator here with me, and we're going to punch some fucking numbers. We're going to figure this shit out because, you know, we hear about how this guy's the cash cow, and this guy is doing X amount of numbers, and this guy's doing this, and this guy's doing that. We're hearing about all these people who are doing these huge numbers. So let's put some more perspective on what kind of numbers these dudes are really doing. Okay, let's do that before we start determining who's overvaluing who and that sort of thing. Okay, let's start with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather definitely wasn't overvaluing himself for sure, but let's start with Floyd Mayweather and, you know, what pay-per-view numbers, what a successful pay-per-view looks like. Okay, because these dudes keep bringing up pay-per-views, but the numbers are not successful pay-per-view numbers. They just numbers. So let's bring up a successful pay-per-view, which is a Floyd Mayweather fight. Okay, so on average, Floyd Mayweather's fights did maybe about 1.1 million, 1.5 million, we can say. Okay, that was an average Floyd Mayweather fight. When he fought Andre Berto, I believe he did like 900,000. Okay, so we're not even taking into account Mayweather Canelo, Mayweather Pacquiao, Mayweather McGregor. We're not even talking about any of those numbers. Okay, we're talking about Mayweather, an average fight, him versus Robert Guerrero or one of those other dudes that nobody really wanted to see him fight, but it still did pretty good numbers. So let's talk about these numbers, though. Let's talk about these numbers. Terry, appreciate the subscribe, my boy. Appreciate you. Appreciate that. Yes, sir. All right, so the average pay-per-view is what? About $70? It's about $70, right? So if I take 70 and then I multiply that times, let's say a million. Million's an easier number. We know we got 70 million. Okay? That's a $70 million fight. A pay-per-view that does $1 million, that does a million pay-per-view buys is worth 70 million just based on pay-per-views. Okay, now a lot of people like bringing up this live gate shit, okay? And a live gate is cool. Cool. But majority of the money comes from the pay-per-view buys, okay? That's where majority of the money comes from. So when people constantly bring up the fact that this person's doing a live gate of this amount and this amount, really we're talking maybe about $3 million, $4 million, maybe $5 million. Now, that ain't nothing to sneeze at. I could take $3 million, $4 million. I mean, you know, that's good money. But compared to the pay-per-views, it ain't really shit. The pay-per-views are really the lion's share of where this money comes from, okay? So when we're looking at a pay-per-view that does a million pay-per-view buys, we're looking at $70 million. We're looking at a $70 million fight. Okay. Now let's look at some of these dudes like Earl Spence, for example. Okay, you knew we were going to go in Earl Spence direction. Anybody who been paying attention to everything that's been going on, I'm sure you figured we would be going in Earl Spence direction eventually. Earl Spence's last pay-per-view did what? 300,000 pay-per-view buys? 300,000 pay-per-view buys times 70. See the number in there? That's 21 million. That's 21 million. 21 million is good money. 21 million is real good money. But it ain't shit compared to 70 million. You know what I'm saying? On a light work Mayweather fight. Fuck it. On Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones did 1.2. Logan Paul versus KSI did 1.2. So they did about 70 million, more than 70 million. Okay. Including the live gate, maybe 75. But we're talking about 75 million versus, open the calculator back up, 21 million. So that ain't much. That ain't much. But again, I'm doing all this right here to paint that picture in your mind right now. When we start going through these fighters and we start talking about their values and all this type of stuff, okay? Because this is very important. When people start talking about pay-per-view numbers, they never put it in perspective. They never talk about what the entire pot we're talking about is. Earl Spence fight, we're talking about maybe 25 million, maybe 30 million. I mean, that's a reach. But 25 million is a good solid number for Earl Spence fight. Again, nothing to sneeze at, but if we're talking about, if we got to put things in perspective though. Okay? So I believe we done setting the table. I believe that we're done setting the table. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and cook. Now we're gonna talk about the fighters that overvalue themselves. They believe that they're Mayweather when in reality they're not. Okay. So at the first part of the video, I started talking about how when you fought Mayweather as an opponent, it was a win-win-win-win-win-win-win situation for the opponent. Not only was he getting paid, okay, but he was put in a situation where whether he won or lost, he would still grow his fan base. Okay. His reputation wouldn't go anywhere because everybody loses to Mayweather. And then on top of that, he didn't have to worry about getting knocked out or stopped or anything like that. He would take a unanimous decision loss, more than likely. You know what I'm saying? So when you were fighting Mayweather, it was a win-win-win-win situation. But these other dudes, it's not that. It's not that. It's not no privilege to fight you. You are not a Hall of Famer. You are not an asterisk on a person's resume. You are not that highlighted fight. You're really, I mean, especially at this point in a lot of these dudes' careers, you're just another fight. Really, a good fight, but another fight. So let's talk about the first person on this list. Let's talk about the first person. So, and the first person that I'm going to talk about is Sean Porter. Okay, but hold on. Before we go to that, before we go to Sean, let's check the comment section. Let's see if anybody says something. Let's check the comment section. All right. Terry says, I felt that. Uh-oh. That is not much. Earl is the cash cow of boxing right now. 20 plus million is a great number. That is a great number, Terry. That's not a great number. And Terry, you might not be in the building no more, but I'm talking to you. That's not a great number. That's a good number. That's a good number. That's a little better than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's a little better than everybody else, Terry. You know what I'm saying? 70 million is a great number. Because that's what Mayweather was doing. 100 million is what Mayweather was doing. 1.5, you know what I'm saying? Pay-per-views, sponsorship deals, and things like that. That's what those dudes were doing. 25 mil is, it's okay. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue to cook. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right. So the first person I'm about to talk about here is Sean Porter. Okay. So here's the thing about Sean. I like Sean. We all know Sean is going to give a great fight. Whatever Sean Porter fight that you watch is going to be action-packed. There's going to be a lot of punches and bunches. There's going to be a lot of wrestling. There's going to be a lot of everything going on in the fight. I'm personally not a huge fan of Sean Porter's style, but I can acknowledge the fact that Sean Porter's fights are entertaining to a lot of people. Not necessarily me, but they're entertaining to a lot of people because of the degree, because of what Sean Porter brings to the table. Okay? Cool. But here's the thing. Sean Porter recently reached out to Terrence Crawford in order to get a fight, which is cool. Okay? But I believe Bob Arum offered Sean Porter $1 million guaranteed. I believe that was what he offered him. And Sean was offended by that. Sean was offended by $1 million. Now, here's the thing. I get that Sean Porter, these dudes, they getting paid very handsomely over there on PBC. Okay, but the reality of the situation for Sean Porter is really he did an Errol Spence fight. What I think that fight did maybe 200,000 pay-per-views. Let's do the math on that. 200,000 pay-per-views times $70, $14 million. $14 million. That's how much the pot was for that fight. Live gate, maybe you add another 2 million, so maybe you're talking about 17 million. Now you got to keep in mind, other people got to get paid too. Promoter got to get paid. Networks got to get paid. Staff got to get paid. Everybody got to get paid. So even though the pot is 14, maybe $17 million, you got to pay everybody with that. You got to pay everybody with that. Okay? So if you got to pay everybody with that money, it's going to run a lot thinner than it would. Okay? So after all the bills and everything like that, that 17 million, it probably goes right back down to 14 million. Right back down to 14 million. So 14 million, if you paying the fighters 7 million a piece, that's $7 million. That's $7 million. What do the promoters get paid? What about the managers, the trainers, all these other people that got to get paid from their $14 million? Okay, but those are the numbers, right? Say that's the $14 million fight off 200,000 pay-per-view buys. Okay, and also we don't know what it costs to rent a venue for the night, to pay for the city permits and, you know, the citations and all the little things that you got to do in order to organize these events. Costs money. But here's the thing. Money aside, you look at Sean Porter and everything that he brings to the table as far as the Terrence Crawford fight, and you got to look at it a little sideways. You have to. Because one, first of all, if I'm Terrence Crawford, do I really want to fight Sean Porter? Okay, and there are people out there who actually say that they think Terrence Crawford might be ducking Sean Porter, which to me is ridiculous. Because you have Sean Porter who is lost. He's got 3 losses on his resume. He got 3 losses. Nothing wrong with 3 losses. But he has 3 losses. Every time he stepped up in competition, aside from one time when he fought Danny Garcia, he lost. Okay, he has no belt. And he's coming off of a loss right now. He's coming off of a loss. So Sean Porter hasn't even fought himself back into position in order to get a fight, in order to get a shot at a world title. Sean Porter is coming off of a loss. So how do you go from coming off of a loss to getting a shot at a world title? Now, again, I'm not knocking Sean Porter, but how do we put him in that position? And then on top of that, if you're Sean Porter, how do you feel entitled enough to feel like Terrence Crawford or anyone of that stature needs to make any kind of sacrifices or anything like that to fight you? Really, it should be an all-out gamble on your part in order to try to make the fight happen. Why do you feel insulted by $1 million when you're coming off of a loss? And this is why I feel like Sean Porter overvalues himself. Sean Porter feels like he's worth so much more than what he actually is worth right now. Now, here's the thing. Right now, I hear Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford are negotiating, and that fight may be happening, which is good. But if I'm Terrence Crawford, I'm not super excited to fight Sean Porter because it does nothing for my recognition to fight somebody like Sean Porter. Nothing really. Again, Sean Porter doesn't have a belt. He's coming off of a loss. He has 3 losses. He lost every time he stepped up. Lost to Earl Spence. The only way I benefit from the situation at all is if I stop Sean Porter. That's the only way I benefit from the situation. That's the only way I come out looking like a hero, somewhat of a hero. So what's so great about me as Terrence Crawford stepping in the ring of Sean Porter? Let me go to the comment section. Let me see if anybody said. Let me see if anybody talking some shit. Let me see if anybody talking some shit. That's insulting. He beat Formella. Sean deserves at least 3 to 5 million. He made a good amount of money versus Spence. Porter just won. He beat Formella. Was that fight televised? I don't even remember that fight. Porter just won. Don't lie, McCain. Did he just, was that fight televised? I really don't remember that fight, my boy. Terry, was that fight televised? When was that fight versus Formella? I promise to God I don't remember that fight. I do not remember that fight versus Formella. Was that televised, Terry? That fight versus Formella, when was that fight? Fox PBC, when was it? Was it like earlier this year? It was on Fox PBC. It had over 2 million views in October. Okay. I don't remember that fight. I really do not remember that fight. Okay, so I stand corrected. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. Shit. Okay, I was wrong. He fought Formella. He came off of a win. Cool. That's good for Sean Porter. But it doesn't change anything else that I'm talking about. It doesn't change the fact that Sean Porter doesn't have a belt. It doesn't change the fact that every time Sean Porter stepped up in competition, when he fought Earl Spence, when he fought Keith Thurman, when he fought Kell Brook, he took L's. It doesn't change the fact that there's no real reason for Terrence Crawford to fight Sean Porter. It doesn't really change those things. It doesn't really do much for Terrence Crawford's career other than the only way Terrence Crawford benefits from fighting Sean Porter is if he stops him or knocks him out. That's the only way it's even remotely a win for Terrence Crawford. Check box rec. Yeah, a few months ago. Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If he fought for Mella, he fought for Mella. That's what's up. It doesn't really change everything that I'm saying, but that's what's up. He got a good win versus Mella. Shout out to Sean Porter for getting that win. You know what I'm saying? And I think Sean should get maybe $2 million or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But I certainly don't feel that Sean is in any position to make demands about a certain amount of money he should be getting for any kind of fight, because he's getting another title shot. He's getting another title shot. One I don't necessarily believe that he deserves one at this particular time. I don't think he deserves a title shot. I really don't. But you know what I mean? Like, but it's again, my stance isn't that I don't want to see the fight. I want to see Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford fight. My only thing is, if I'm Sean Porter, I'm doing what it takes to get a Terrence Crawford fight. Can Sean get the $5 million he's looking for? If I'm Bob Arum, do I really want to pay Sean $5 million? Because it doesn't really do much for Terrence's career to fight Sean Porter right now, and it's a dangerous fight. And it's a dangerous fight. I'm not gonna say that Sean's cashing himself out. I mean, Sean has been the most stable, solid dude throughout this whole thing. Sean has been the most stable, most solid dude in the welterweight division. So I can't say he's cashing out. I wouldn't say he's cashing himself out, but Sean is definitely trying to make more money in a situation that I feel like he really shouldn't be. He really shouldn't be. He should take whatever opportunity he's given with Terrence Crawford, in my opinion, because again, there's no benefit for Terrence Crawford to fight this dude. Yeah, he's a two-time champ. It's a great name on the resume. It is. I agree. That's what I was saying earlier too, Terry. But the thing about it is, because he's lost already to Earl Spence, to Kell Brook, to Keith Thurman. If Terrence Crawford beats Sean Porter, they're gonna say, well, he was supposed to do that. He was supposed to. You know what I'm saying? He was supposed to beat Sean Porter. And the dudes, the Errol Spence fanatics out there, they still gonna turn around and say, oh, Terrence ain't fought nobody at welterweight. They still gonna turn around and say that. So you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I'm not mad at Sean trying to make his money. I'm not mad at it at all. I'm not mad at it at all. Get your money. Get your money. Get your money. But know where you stand. Know where you stand right now. Know your leverage. You're not leveraged to be able to make demands with anything. If you have an opportunity to become a welterweight champion again, you know what I'm saying? Sean a gatekeeper now? I'm not gonna call him a gatekeeper. I'm not gonna call that's a step, just a little bit step too far. But he's right there. He's one loss away from gatekeeper status. If he loses again, if he loses to Terrence Crawford, he's a gatekeeper. He's a gatekeeper. For sure, for sure. For sure, for sure. I don't think you can call him elite anymore if he loses to Terrence Crawford. He's stripped of his elite status. For sure. You know what I'm saying? But there's Sean in a nutshell, man. You know what I'm saying? Again, overvaluing himself. You know what I'm saying? Believing he's worth much more than what he is, when in actuality, he should take what he should take. Yeah, I said it. Oh, yeah. I said it. What you think? You agree, Terry? You agree with that? Should Sean go to 154 then? What are you gonna do at 154? What's Sean gonna do at 154 with Jamel Charlo? I don't think Sean beat. He's definitely not beating Charlo, but I do believe that he'll give. I believe he'll give anybody he gets in the ring with a tough fight. But those dudes at 154 are real big, so Sean he runs the risk of getting knocked out. He's able to take shots like that, you know what I'm saying, at 147, but once you start getting to 154 and 160, them punches start getting harder and heavier. You know what I'm saying? But I think Sean fought at 160 before. Sean fought at 160 in the amateurs. So I don't think it would be that hard or that bad of a transition for him. But when you start talking about those top guys at 154 and those top guys at 160, do you really see Sean holding a belt or doing anything at those weight classes? No. Text Sarah or give Lara a draw. Man. Them dudes are big, man. They're big. Them some big dudes. Nah, no Swift Herd, no Charlo. That's out of the question. That's out of the question. Swift Herd could probably go up to 168, man. That's a big dude right there. Swift Herd is a big dude, man. I don't even know about Harrison. I don't think Sean gets past Harrison. I think Sean is in danger of getting stopped by Tony Harrison at 54. Loses to Herd and Lara, yeah. Charlo, to me, is king. Charlo got it. He got it right now, 154. All the dudes that would have beat Charlo left that division and went up to 160. Demetrius Andrade would have beat Jamel Charlo, but he at 160 now. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? A big kid. Yeah. That's a big motherfucker, man. That's a big motherfucker, Jerry Hurd, boy. 168, I think. Maybe even 175. He could go up there. He a big dude. But let's keep it going though. Let's keep it going. He used to be my favorite at 154. Yeah, man. Jerry Hurd was the man at 154. He was in some real exciting fights. He hasn't fought in such a long time. He was some real exciting fights, man. You know what I'm saying? It was a shame when he lost because he just fell off the map. Oh, yeah, me too. Me too, Terry. Me too. Andrade is my favorite fighter. He's my favorite fighter right now. Him and Bud and Devin are my favorite fighters right now. Demetrius Andrade got the skills to beat anybody. To me, I say he beats everybody from 154 all the way to 168. All the way to 168, I think Andrade beats him. And maybe a few people at 175 because he got the length, he got the height and the length to be able to outbox him. He a little chinny, so if you go up to 175, they're gonna chin check him a few times. That might get a little dicey, but anybody from 154 to 168, I think he beats him. He beat the fight out of her. Yeah, he did, man. He did. It was sad too, man. It was sad too. I don't even know if Hurd want to box no more, man. I don't even know if Hurd want to box no more, man. Hurd just in it. He's just trying to collect checks right now, man. But it's all good though. Let's keep it pushing though. Let's keep it pushing. On to the next person. Overvaluing themselves. Next person on the list is Tio, man. Tio places a little bit too much value on himself, man. Teofimo Lopez. Now, there's a lot of shit going on right now about Tio, man. A lot of people have problems with him. Me being one of them. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go into all the problems I have about Teofimo Lopez. We're trying to keep this, you know what I'm saying, as centered as possible as far as what we discussing. You know what I'm saying? Fighters overvaluing themselves, but Teofimo Lopez places too much value on himself, man. He really honestly and truly does. T.O. asked somebody for 10 million. You know what I'm saying? He asked for 10 million to fight Devin. You know, Devin offered him 4. He didn't take the 4. He took 1.2 to fight Kambosos. It's like it's too much going on with T.O. right now. But it's clear to me that he places too much value on himself. He believes that it's a privilege to fight him, when in all actuality, it's not a privilege to fight T.O. at all, not even in the least. Not even in the least. T.O. won 2 fights. T.O. has 3 belts. Some people are going to say 4 belts, but really it's 3 belts. And we all know it's 3 belts. And that's part of the problem that I have with T.O., the fact that he accepts his franchise belt as a real belt. The fact that you know in your mind that this isn't a real belt, but you're still going to accept it as a real belt is a problem with me. It's a problem. You know what I'm saying? But T.O. accepts it as a real belt. And he's just running with that. He's just running with that. And it's like, okay, you got 2 good fights on your resume, but that doesn't mean that you're a Hall of Famer. That doesn't mean you cemented your legacy. Not T.O. T.O.'s on the hot seat, man. You already know T.O. on the hot seat. T.O.'s been on the hot seat for the last maybe month. Is T.O. undisputed? Absolutely not. Absolutely not in my mind. But the fact of the matter is, I did hear WBC president Mauricio Suleiman confirm that T.O. is indeed undisputed. Now, is he full of shit? Absolutely, he's full of shit. You know what I'm saying? But we have to take what Mauricio says into consideration at very least and call that belt legit. But it's some bullshit. If I'm T.O., I'm not even accepting that belt. I'm not even taking that belt seriously if I'm T.O. The fact that he's taking that belt seriously to me is a clear sign that he doesn't want to fight Devin Haney. Devin Haney has I don't know what you want to call it, man. I don't know what you're going to call it. I'm going to call it the real WBC belt. You know what I'm saying? But his belt has literally been relegated to mediocrity. You know what I'm saying? His belt has literally been relegated to shit, to ass. You know what I'm saying? Courtesy of Mauricio Suleiman and this franchise belt. It's quite a shame, but it's here's the thing, man, with T.O. Because clearly T.O. is saying, he's saying originally he went back and he said, oh, he sent the contract to Devin Haney and Kambosos, whoever would come back sooner, that would be the one that I would take first. It's like, you really feel like you big dog. Like you really feel like you're the destination at this point, just based on how you're talking and the type of tone that you're using as you're fucking going through this shit. Hell yeah, WBC kill boxing. Hell yeah, they kill boxing. They murdered this shit and pissed all over it. They pissed all over boxing with their franchise belt. But back on T.O. T.O. really feels like he's accomplished, like he's done it. You know what I'm saying? If you just pay attention to what T.O. is saying, he really feels like he made it. He really feels like he made it. Yeah, no other franchise champs. You know what I'm saying? Only T.O. got a franchise belt, and only Canelo got a franchise belt, but they ain't got one at no other division. You know what I'm saying? They ain't got one at no other division other than this. So we know what time it is. It's some bull ass shit. And T.O.'s flaws fuck for accepting that shit. Period. But back on his neck. If you really pay attention to the way that this dude speaks, he really puts himself in the same light as Floyd Mayweather. He really feels like it's a privilege to fight him. He really feels like he's that guy. He really feels like that. It's like you didn't collect these belts. You didn't beat any of the champions to get these belts. You fought one person and you got these belts. You have one marquee fight on your resume. That doesn't make you a star. That doesn't make you a cash cow. That doesn't make you the man. That doesn't make you anything. You have the belts. You're the champ. So you need to fight the people who are in line in order to get those belts. But at the same time, there needs to be a certain amount of humility in T.O.'s voice. T.O. is not a cash cow. T.O. is not, he's not that guy at all. And to me, he's spiraling out of control with the type of shit that he's going through. I feel like dudes like Devin Haney and dudes like Tank and them dudes are probably gonna end up leaving the division. They're gonna end up leaving the division, and T.O. is gonna be relegated to mediocrity. Nobody's gonna give a fuck about T.O. because there's gonna be no one in that division for him to fight. And it's like right now with these young fighters, this is the time right now for you to go ahead and get these fights in, these legacy fights in your career, in order to cement your career, in order to become that Hall of Famer. That Mayweather, that Pacquiao, them dudes that you idolize, them dudes that you see them making all kinds of money, you know what I'm saying? Clearly you want to be on that level. These are the kind of fights that those dudes took at this point in their career. And it's like you're at an early point in your career and you feel like you're in that position, but you're really not. And what's going to happen is these dudes are going to allow those opportunities to pass by, and they're just going to leave. They're going to leave boxing with egg on their face. They're going to leave boxing and nobody's going to remember them. Teal's trying to run to 140. That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. He probably want to go ahead and fight Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor going to wash him, though. I think Josh Taylor will wash him. He's running from Tank Haney and Ryan Garcia. He really is. It's like you don't even want to fight Ryan. First of all, it's really bad when you take less money for an easier fight. So it's like you take less money. Like you would rather take a pay cut than fight this dude. Nakatani, yeah, that was a good fight. He don't want to give Loma a rematch. He don't want to give Nakatani a rematch. He don't want to give nobody a rematch. T.O. is probably going to end up the rate that T.O.'s going. I don't see him doing much in the sport. I don't see him accomplishing much because he's going to run himself into just obscurity. Nobody's going to give a fuck. He called out Josh Taylor, but Josh Taylor might wash him. Josh Taylor might wash T.O. But I see him trying to get that fight. If he manages to beat Josh Taylor, then that's going to be a nice little blip on his resume. If he beats Josh Taylor, but he would still be running, and people are always going to remember him from running from Devin Haney, from running from Tank, from running from Ryan Garcia. They're always going to remember him from running from Nightweight. They're always going to remember that. They'll never be able to take him seriously because of that. T.O. want the money and that's it. Hey, but but here go the thing. You get the money by fighting the legacy fights, because the legacy fights build your brand up to the point where you can make that kind of money. They build your brand up. I think, yeah. Josh wants Terrence Crawford. And I think he will. I think Josh is going to probably fight Terrence Crawford. Probably at the end of this year, that fight might happen. With the way things are going, with Earl and Terrence and all this type of stuff, Terrence said he's done with the whole Errol Spence thing. Fuck it. He looking at fights like that. He looking at them other fights. Why not? If I'm Terrence Crawford. But it's crazy to me though. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy to me that T.O. feels so strongly in his mind that he's accomplished so much in the sport, walking around with a belt that don't mean shit. But let's move on. Let's move on. I ain't trying to be on here all night. Let's move the fuck on. Next person we want to talk about, Jamal Charlo. That's another dude that feels like he's that's another dude that just feels like he's worth way more than he actually is. Jamal Charlo telling people to get COVID tested, COVID vaccines, and telling people he don't fight people under 25 and all this old bull ass shit. Like, what is Jamal Charlo really talking about? You don't fight people under 25? What the fuck does that even mean? Since when does Jamal Charlo call shots to be able to make those kinds of demands? Since when does that happen? Again, none of these dudes are pay-per-view stars. These dudes have belts. They're belt holders. Not Jamal. I feel like you got a similar list, Terry. I feel like you got a similar list. For real, for real. But yeah, man, Jamal's definitely on the list, man. Jamal feel like he worth way more than what he actually is. And it's like, yo, Jamal, you are not that. You are not that, Jamal. You are not that, Jamal. You are not that. Jamal's telling David Benavidez he got to get a COVID vaccine. And he don't fight people under 25. And then he ended on a note of saying he's a 160 pounder. So he did all that talking. He did all that talking just so he could say he's a 160 pounder and he don't want to fight David Benavidez at 168. It's like, really? Really? Why waste my time? Why waste your time? Why waste all the fans' time? Why waste people's time getting hyped up for a fight that we know we're not gonna see? And I was pissed off about this shit, man, when this shit first happened. You know what I'm saying? I was pissed off when I first heard it. Jamal can run shit. He was on pay-per-view and did over 250K. 250K, that's good numbers, but let's add the shit up. Let's add the shit up. 250K times $70. I mean, that's 17 million. You know what I'm saying? That's 17 million. It's like this isn't big money like that. You know what I'm saying? It's big money for me. You know what I'm saying? It's big money for you. But in the larger scale of things, it's not really big money like that. Again, these dudes have to pay networks. They you know what I'm saying? They got to pay for this. They got to pay for that. Permits. They got to pay the city. There's a whole lot of fees that are incurred with a lot of these fights. You know what I'm saying? You add a live gate, maybe another 2-3 million. So you're talking about maybe 20 million. It's like, man, that's light work. That's light work when Logan Paul is doing 70 million, 75 million, and you're doing 20 million. That's what the fight's worth. That's what the fight is actually worth. So it's like, man, Jamal, like, really, like, at the end of the day, you need to be working on your brand. Oh, that was Charlo first pay-per-view? That's a good first pay-per-view. But here's the thing about what I'm talking about in this particular live right now. I'm talking about how these dudes overvalue themselves. It's like, where do you get off telling people they gotta get a COVID vaccine? Where do you get off telling people that shit when you're doing 250 pay-per-view buys? When you're doing a $20 million fight? Which, again, it's not bad, but Go back to what we were talking about Mayweather. When people fought Mayweather, they knew they were going to get paid because it was a $70 million pot. So a lot of times they could make 10, $20 million. They knew it was going to be a low risk of them getting knocked out, and they knew where they were going to get the prestige of fighting Mayweather. And whether they win or lose, their fan base was going to grow. They got to work on the lines only brand. Yeah, they definitely got to work on lines only brand. It's like these dudes, they don't have it like that. But they move like they do. And it's like you don't. Mayweather had it like that. Even Canelo should have been on this list. Canelo overvalues himself too. But at least with Canelo, Canelo has somewhat of the resources to back up what he's doing. Canelo's doing 400, maybe 500,000 pay-per-view buys. Actually, I don't know if he's doing that much now. I think his last pay-per-view did horribly. Canelo might be closer to Earl Spence now, as far as pay-per-view numbers are concerned. Canelo really isn't built like that either. He's another one that feels entitled, that feel like people got to make all these concessions in order to fight Canelo. But at the end of the day, the pot's really not that big for a Canelo fight. A big Canelo fight, yeah. But, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't include Canelo on this list because at the end of the day, Canelo has at least some of the clout in order to back up some of that entitlement. But dudes like Jermall Charlo, they don't have none of that at all. 250,000 pay-per-view buys is not, that ain't no clout. That's not no clout. That's not no real, that ain't no real money. If I'm a fighter, and I'm like, well, I want to fight Jermall Charlo. And I know Jermall Charlo does $20 million fights. I'm not taking those 60, I'm not taking those 40%, 30% to Jermall Charlo. Maybe if I'm like a up and comer or something like that, but if I'm somebody in a situation, if I'm somebody in a position where I'm doing okay, I'm making 5 million, 6 million a fight, it does nothing for my career in order to take a Jermall Charlo fight. Yes, that would be a good fight on my resume, for sure. That would be a good. That is true. They may be trying to build up the future fight for this year. Yeah. But if I'm looking at a Jermall Charlo fight, I'm like, well, okay, so this is a $20 million fight. He wants me to take 30% of the pot. 30% of $20 million is what? 50% would be 10 million. So 30% is probably like about 5 million, about what my guarantee would be, about what I would get paid to fight anybody else. So what's the benefit in fighting somebody like a Jermall Charlo? What's the benefit in really trying to make those concessions? Money-wise, it does really nothing for my career. Money-wise, legacy-wise, it does pretty well for my career. But it's not the same as fighting like a Hall of Famer or anything like that, because we can always ask, what has Jermall Charlo done? What has Jermall Charlo done in order to warrant me taking a reduction in what I'm making in order to satisfy it, in order to make sure this fight happens? 6 to 7 million. Yeah. But if I'm getting 5 million a fight, if I'm somebody like Andrade, or I'm somebody like Terrence Crawford, who's getting a guarantee of $5 and $6 million a fight, you know what I'm saying? I believe Terrence Crawford guarantee is like 5.5 million. If I'm getting a guarantee like that, and then I want to fight Jermall Charlo, and Jermall's telling me I got to take 30%, I'm actually taking a pay cut. David would take 7 plus the gate in revenues. That's reasonable. But Jermall don't want to fight that man. Jermall's a 2-division champ. He is. And I'm not knocking none of these dudes as far as what they accomplished, but at the end of the day, they overvaluing themselves. They feel like their stock is way more than what it actually is. We talking about a $20 million fight, and you talking about you wanna give me 30% of 20 million, which is what 5-6 million? 6 million? I was already getting paid 6 million. I might as well take the 6 million I was making from fighting this nigga over here, who ain't got no name, who ain't nowhere near as dangerous as a Jamal Charlo. What's the point of me taking that fight other than legacy? And then I gotta submit to this dude giving me a lower split of the pot. He gonna, and this is gonna bring us to what we're gonna close out on, which is Earl Spence. Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford. You knew it was going there, didn't you, Terry? You knew it was going there. Earl Spence versus Terrence Crawford. Who we gonna end off on? Earl Spence. Very similar to like Jamal Charlo. At least with Earl Spence, I'm not hearing him ask Terrence Crawford to get a COVID test, or I'm sorry, a COVID vaccine or anything like that. But Earl is telling Terrence he got to take 60, 40, 70, 30, or whatever we give him. When it's like at the end of the day, Earl did what? It's 350,000 pay-per-view buys. Let's do the goddamn math again. Let's make sure that we understand what the number is. So his last fight versus what? Mikey Garcia, I think not Mikey Garcia. His last fight versus Danny Garcia did, I think it was really 250 pay-per-view buys. Really? I think it was like 250, but I'm gonna say 300 just for the sake of it, just for the fuck of it. 300,000 pay-per-view buys times $70 for a pay-per-view, 21 million. So we're talking about $21 million. That's a $21 million pot. That's the $21 million pot. So you telling me you want me, I'm Terrence Crawford, you want me to take 40% of 21 million when I'm already getting a guarantee of 5.5 million, 6 million per fight, and probably some back end? But you want me to take 40% of a $21 million fight, maybe $25 million fight. That's more or less what I was getting paid already. That's more or less what I was getting paid already. So why should I relegate myself to a pay cut? Or why would I fight? Why would I take on this fight knowing full well I can fight this other person and make the exact same amount of money? And then I got to deal with the fact that I had to take 40% or 30% versus an Earl Spence, especially if he's talking about 30%, 20%. And it's a lot of dudes out here talking about they were Terrence, they would take 30%. You would take 30% of 21 million or 25 million when you making $5-6 million guaranteed per fight. That's you actually taking about a pay cut. Because if you're getting some back end on that 21 million, I mean, if you're getting some back end on that 5 million, you probably might be making upwards of 8 million when it's all said and done. So why would you turn around and take 30% of 21 million or 40% of 21 million? That's actually less than what you was making. So you actually taking a pay cut in order to fight this dude. When at the end of the day, nobody's acknowledging the fact that these dudes, Earl Spence, Jamil Charlo, Teofimo Lopez, these dudes that I'm talking about in this video, these dudes are overvaluing themselves. These dudes are not Floyd Mayweather. That's really what it comes down to. These dudes are not Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? Floyd Mayweather, you knew it was going to be a $70 million to $100 million fight. Floyd was going to give you 30%, 20%, whatever he gave you, but that still would leave you with $10-20 million out of a $100 million fight. That would still leave you with $20 million. Earl can't do that. Earl can't leave you with $20 million after you take a 20% from an Earl Spence fight. Al Heyman can work numbers. Perhaps he can, but I mean, let's just look at this. We're trying to look at this logistically. Earl may be the next. Earl may be next. He is selling out the most. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness, Terry, you my man. I might next live I do. I might have to have you on with me, bro. We might have to chop it up. Yes, sir. We might have to chop it all the way up. I'll be live on Friday at 11. Fuck with me, man. I might have to get you on here, man. I might have to get you on here. But yeah. You telling Earl, you telling Terrence Crawford that he needs to take 30%, 20% of a $21 million fight, which would, in most cases, leave him with less money than he was already getting paid for fighting anyone else. So if I'm Bud Crawford, why would I take that pay reduction? Why would I do that? To fight somebody who's dangerous? Because Earl Spence could beat Terrence Crawford. Could happen. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it could happen. Appreciate you, man. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Terry. Yes, sir. But yeah, why would I do that? Why would I relegate myself to that type of thing? Why would I? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. If I'm Terrence Crawford, I'm moving the fuck on, just like Terrence Crawford is doing. And I don't blame him one bit for it. Because you can't, if you Errol Spence, if you Sean Porter, if you Teofimo Lopez, if you these dudes, again, you're overvaluing yourself. Because I don't need to fight you. It's not necessarily beneficial to fight you. You're a dangerous fight. Terry says Earl should give Crawford 60-40 because Earl has 2 belts, maybe 3. Ugas versus Crawford has at least 1 WBO. It'd be nice if Terrence got that WBO. You know, the WBA. He had the WBA and he had the WBO. You know what I'm saying? It would be nice if he had that. But it's like, even though he don't have it, if I'm Bud Crawford, I'm like, all right, Earl want to give me 40%, but that's less than what I did. We're talking about a maybe $25 million fight. If I'm Bud, I'm like, you need me more than I need you. You trying to be undisputed. I was already undisputed at 140. You know what I'm saying? If I'm Bud, I'm like, you need me more than I need you. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we're not talking about no more money. Especially when we're talking about Earl Spence, who's trying to do what Terrence has already done. It's like, no real reason for me to do it. Nah, King, I think Earl Crawford is $100 million. You think it's gonna do 1 million pay-per-view buys? Because that's what 100 million. You think actually that's more. $100 million fight is like 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. Maybe like 1.25, and then maybe some advertising and some other stuff on there. You know what I mean? You think it does that many? I don't think it does that many. I think maybe it does 400,000. Undisputed online, let's go 60-40. If I'm Terrence Crawford, again, you need me more than I need you. If I'm Terrence Crawford, I don't see it being more than a $30 million fight at best. You know what I'm saying? I don't see it doing more than 300, maybe 400,000 pay-per-view buys. As big as this fight is right now, because here's the thing: these dudes, they have not worked their brand like that. They don't have the brand to be able to generate those kind of numbers. If you go to Terrence Crawford's Instagram, he got less than a million followers on Instagram. These dudes' following is just not like that. Ticket sales, gate ad, promotionals. I don't think it does all that. I don't think it does all that. I don't think it does more than maybe 30 million. 30 million, 40 million. It probably does what a Manny Pacquiao fight would do right now. Maybe like 400,000 or 500,000. Which is good because none of them have ever done 400,000 or 500,000. So those would be good numbers for them. Those would be good numbers for both Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, but it's still not a huge pot. That's still maybe like 35 million. You know what I'm saying? That's a bigger pot than maybe in 35 million. If you split that in half, you're talking about what, 17 million a pop? But if Earl's taking the lion's share, 60-40, so you're talking about 40% of 35 million, you're talking about, again, maybe like 10 million, 10 million, 12 million. Ndongo only got like 1 million or 2 tops. Well, I mean, Ndongo, it ain't the same amount of like leverage. Ndongo was who was promoting Ndongo at the time? Was it Al Haymon fighter? I don't remember if it was an Al Haymon fighter or not, Ndongo. But I know Ndongo leverage-wise wasn't the same situation. Ndongo had campaigned at 140. He had picked up a few belts in the fight. You know what I'm saying? He hadn't accomplished what Bud Crawford had accomplished at this point in his career. You know what I'm saying? That's more, but not much more. That's more, but not much more. So Earl would make 25 million and Bud would make about what he would normally make. Is that something you would take? Earl make maybe like 35 million. That's about 17 million a pop. Earl got 60% of that. Earl make like 20 million and Bud would make more like 10, which is pretty much what he's making right now per fight. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up with this, man. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up with this, man. I've been on here longer than I'm supposed to be on here. But anyway, man, I'm gonna call it a night. Still more, right? Came like 10, 12, man. More, but not much more. More, but not much more. You know what I'm saying? For a big fight. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna go ahead and end this live on this, man. I'm gonna end this live on this. These fighters, the fighters today, really need to understand what made Floyd Mayweather and what gave Floyd Mayweather the leverage that he had in the sport of boxing. Okay. None of these fighters at this particular point in time possess that level of leverage. So therefore, they should not in any way exercise the things that Floyd Mayweather did in his career. They should not in any way attempt to do that. You know what I'm saying? Thus, here we are in this situation where fights aren't getting made and the best is not fighting the best. So with that said, man, I'm going to go ahead and end this live, man. I'll be back here at 11 o'clock on Friday for Late Night Boxing Talk, man. We're going to get it all the way in. If you rock with me already thus far, make sure you bring your ass to Late Night Boxing Talk so we can have more of this good dialogue, man, and keep this shit going, man. But I will holler at y'all later. Peace.